Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Three Black Pratt Grads. That's Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. I'm Greg Claghorn with my buds. I don't know where they are. This is Mark Skinner, and raise your hand. Say hi, Mark. Okay, and Kenny Nelson, photographer extraordinaire. We've been shooting for, well, you can do the numbers way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And we've managed to continue to keep shooting, and we're doing this little podcast just to discuss, photography, what it means to us, and different topics. I hope you can follow along and feel free to join in, send us a comment, subscribe and hit the bell. And all right, we last week, our last episode, we had thanks to these illustrious gentlemen with these obscure, no, not really obscure, thought-provoking topics, came up with the idea of photographic intent. And I was a little puzzled. I was kind of a little turned off. I was like, photography is like one of the most
Excuse me.
intentional art forms there is. With if you see something, you got to take a picture of it. That the intent is there, but I think what we got into was the thought process behind, what attracts us. And as we were closing out the last part of our discussion, as I deal with some technical,
Excuse me.
hey, Pete, fix that lighting. And we got to the the last of our conversation. We got to talking about intent. Boy, I lost my train of thought. Doggone it. Anyway, well, let's move along. Maybe it'll come back to me. All right, first picture up. Unless you guys want to start all over with that tech.
No,
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 we're
no.
still going on. Moving right along.
We're moving right
All
along.
right, my first image up here. This was I had the opportunity to go to the what is that thing, Kenny? Under the Brooklyn Bridge, the
Yeah, that's
Photoville.
Photoville.
Photoville. Oh
Uh-huh.
my gosh! If you ever are, if you're in New York, or you're a New York shooter, or you're just a photo bug and you really want a fantastic shooter's experience, make your way. I don't know. Well, after the COVID thing is over, make your way to the Photoville exhibition underneath the Brooklyn Bridge down near Dumbo. And it's just an amazing experience. Photographers, photography, containers just painted white and made into gallery spaces. Shooters of every walk, from super pros to folks still shooting with Instamatics. And for those who don't know, look it up. So uh, as far as intent goes, I just enjoyed this because you know that's what photographers do. You have a device, go out and shoot. That's my biggest thing. Now, Mr. Nelson here, he's a big one on series, and he does these amazing series. He's been picked up, with several museums around New York, and the intent. Now, you can just go out and be kind of loosey goosey. I don't know if that's a real term, but just kind of see what's out there. I like kind of doing that sometimes, and then other times I'll have an idea and I'll say, let me go out and shoot this topic and see what I can come back with. It's like, oh, I think I'm gonna go shoot red shoes. Who's wearing red shoes today? And you go around looking for red shoes. And you'd be surprised what you'd come up with. From clown shoes to slippers to all kinds of whatever. And the intent. Oh, that's what it was. Last episode, we were talking, and I said, it's like a
Excuse me.
photography, kind of like a movie. Sure. 100 people go to see a movie,
Uh-huh.
and you ask them on the way out what the movie was about, and you'll get 100 different opinions, because people see what's in them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we were talking about is like, if all three of us went out to shoot an event, we would be attracted to what's in us,
Right.
what our eye sees.
Yeah.
So I kind of enjoy that aspect of it because I remember a few years ago, Ken and I ran into each other at the Easter parade,
Yep.
on Fifth Avenue. What a blast! Oh my gosh, just it was just target rich. People just in costume, willing to get their picture taken. Or we're up there, it's like, hey, kid, and he's like, hey,
Yeah.
hey. So I took a picture of him. He took a picture of me, and then for some reason, right in the middle of our conversation, he saw something off of my right shoulder. I saw something over his left shoulder, and never saw him again. He never saw me again, and we're out just having the time of my life, just shooting
Oh man, you
and
guys should have shown those pictures. I'd like to see
oh
what you
yeah,
got.
yeah.
Like the two
Okay.
pictures you should do a show like we should show where you show the picture where you guys met, you took photographs of one another, and then what you photographed when you looked over the other shoulder.
Okay.
I'll have to
All right.
look in my archives to see if I have that.
Me too. Me too. I'll have to dig those up. That would be fun. Easter parade.
That'd be great. I'd like.
Incredible event. I really enjoyed that. Did we run into each other at the San Gennaro or no?
No,
No, no. Okay,
no.
because you got some great shots at San Gennaro. I'm really jealous of that stringy pizza bite shot. I really, really like that one. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So photographic intent. I really get for me personally, 'cause I can speak for anybody else. Uh, you know, a lot of times I'll just go out and just see what's happening, see what's out there, see what catches my eye, and just shooting to please my eye. Sometimes I'll shoot stuff and I'll say, "Oh, somebody will like this," but my heart's not really into it. So, all right, this one, people shooting each other. Photographers are kind of a interesting bunch of folks, but they're fun. They enjoy what they do, and you could have like her camera is just a basic film, and he's like a digital guy, but they're into it, into the moment of shooting each other. I'd like to see what their pictures look like. Okay, go to the next one.
Okay.
All right, this one is Venice Beach.
Oops,
Oh,
sorry.
hello. Is
Sorry.
that the dead body? Do we have to
Sorry.
like get the fixer and okay? All right.
Sorry.
Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, yeah, California is just uh, target rich. You never know what you're going to see from one moment to the next. And I went down to Venice Beach, and they called it Venice because of the canals. And I took a stroll down the canal early in the morning, and I saw these swan boats, and it was like, okay, is that a pelican? That's a big pelican, and the one in the back is like a black swan.
I thought that was
And
flamingo. That's a flamingo,
is it
isn't it?
familiar? What did I say? Flamingo? Yeah,
Flamingo.
flamenco. Sorry. Well, the one in the back is a swan,
It's
like
a
a black
swan, yeah.
swan.
Mm-hmm.
The one in the front is like a pink flamingo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just played around with the, slip focus and, no particular rhyme or reason, but um, I was just fiddling with, um, the mechanics of the lens, to foreground, background, and just to show a little bit of the quirkiness of Venice, the people who live there, and you know it was just kind of just a whimsy shot. And I sometimes I'll get a wild hair and I'll see something silly and I was like, oh, I got to get that. And I will go out of my way. I'll drive a couple of exits and make a U-turn and come back. Uh, I've been known to do quite a few strange things, but there it is. That's just me.
And
Okay,
and
next one.
and so
Go
wait,
ahead.
wait, wait. What's the intention here, though?
The intent,
You alluded
um,
to it, but you didn't quite specify. You didn't pin it.
well, the intent here, I mean, to have the pink flamingo just so close to the front of the frame, it's a little bit of a unusual, a little bit of an absurd perspective, and I wanted to show a little bit of that oddity in it. So the intent for me was to really push the whimsy of it and have this big fake pink flamingo right in your face, and then have like another one across the canal there just to show that it wasn't a one of. So is that what you mean?
Right. What was it that What was the intent of creating this photo? Was it what was it you were trying to show, or was it like you were just trying to test the limits of the camera, or what were you doing?
Oh no, when I saw it, because I saw it about a quarter mile up, because I was actually just going to see the canal. I was like, ooh, Venice Canal. So I just went to the a bridge. There's like several bridges, about a quarter mile apart, and got to the bridge, and I looked up one way, saw nothing. Looked down the other way, and I saw these two goofy looking um, paddle boats in the canal, and I was like, I got to get this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's kind of goofy, but I tended to catch some goofy shots, some unusual moment shots. But um, again, the intent was just to capture, the whimsy of it. There's a little bit of a carnival feel to it, like a, carnival ride or Disney ride or whatever. But it's unusual. You don't normally see, a swan or pelican boats just kind of drifting around. Not even, maybe back in the day in Central Park, they used to have, um, specialty boats, specialty paddle boats or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
these were fun. I just want to capture the whimsy of it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, doke. Moving right along. Ah, all right. Now I got a thing for movies, and one of the saddest thing, and even now, especially with the COVID thing, there's almost nothing better. I know it's a American fascination being in a movie house in a dark theater with hundreds of strangers watching the movie, but there's just nothing like the shared experience for me of a movie house. And then conversely, there's almost nothing sadder to me than a closed one, And I could tell this used to be a show palace, maybe not of the order of like, a Ziegfeld or anything like that, but it was a, Art Deco, really nice theater. I'm sure it was nice theater in its heyday, and it was boarded up in nice pastel colors. I mean, it was boarded up. It was sad, but there was still an energy to it. So I when I saw it, the light wasn't quite right, so I kind of came back the next day early in the morning, and I captured this, some shadows to make it you know, little atmosphere, but wanted to lighten it as much as I could. So my intent was to show that there was still beauty in it, but the sadness in that it was,
It's all
you
boarded
know,
up.
all
Yeah.
boarded up.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have to board it up in pink or green pastel, but they did.
Hey, but
So
it matches the Art Deco, right? It's like the miniature Empire State Building.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And I just couldn't help but wonder, what it would look like lit up, or what it looks like inside. Because most of these show palaces are so ornate inside that they're pieces of art all by themselves. So
Well, you know what's
that
nice
was.
about this for me? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go
I,
ahead.
I
No,
was,
no.
I was, I was gonna say, if this were just a standard California blue sky that we all see on television, you wouldn't have captured the sense of sadness of the boarded up theater as much. The fact that there are these storm clouds behind the well lit facade, really, really, really nice. I mean,
Rare storm clouds, I might add.
mhm.
It doesn't rain in Southern California. Oh, that's such a lie. It rains. But yeah, the clouds definitely add to it and flatten it up a little bit. And they almost kind of mimic the pastel colors and the pale green and the pale cream color of the facade. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. That was my intent on that one. Go ahead. You go to the next one, and I'll wrap it up like this. If I said it before, I will say it again. I'll keep saying, get out there and shoot. If it's not the shot, if it's not a Bresson shot, or if it's not a museum quality shot, get out there and shoot. Eventually, you're gonna nail one. And then when that light goes off, I love those moments when you see something, and the light goes off, and you capture the lights right, the shutter speed's right, the f-stop is right, the moment, and you catch a moment. Nothing like it. So I just want to say, you did not wake up today to be mediocre. Keep shooting.
And
Keep
right,
courageous.
and of course that's subjective.
What?
So right, so
Mediocre?
right, mediocrity is subjective. To each
Oh,
his own.
I thought you meant that the
No, no,
statement was subjective.
No, well,
no.
the idea of the idea of being mediocre is each into themselves, because the level of mediocrity is dependent upon your self confidence. So if you're very self confident, you would probably have
Oh,
less of an idea of mediocrity. And then again, mediocre, man. I mean, the level of mediocrity is different from person to person. I don't
well,
think it's the
now
same.
I won't speak about like any former presidents or anything, but some people have the gab. They can talk a good game,
Uh,
but their work's not very good.
okay.
Then there are other folks who shoot with like an Instamatic, look it up, and can make art out of it. So mediocrity. Okay, I mean, I'll accept
Right.
your
Right. Great.
hypothesis, but
Yeah. Let me put it to you this way. So, um, and I'll give you an example. I'll go out and photograph, and I'll take a picture of something that, for the moment, looks great. When I go back and I take another look at it, I'm like, well, it's not as great as I thought it was. Matter of fact, it's quite mediocre.
okay, you can
So,
lose the slate, the picture.
okay.
Good.
So,
So
so So as the and that's why I'm saying it's subjective, because to some degree it's from moment to moment, person to person, day to day, time to time, emotion to emotion, and all this comes into play with level of mediocrity in terms of just you didn't wake up today to be mediocre, and
okay,
if you have a headache, that could skew the mediocrity, you know.
okay. But what I'm saying is always strive to be the
You're,
best you possibly
I
can.
guess, you're saying your intention is not to wake up to be
Right.
mediocre.
Well,
Okay, I
yeah.
didn't understand a word you said.
I said the intention
Well,
isn't to wake up in the morning and be mediocre.
right. Just
Right.
go
The
out and it's like,
intention
oh,
was,
there's a
yeah,
cloud, click,
yeah,
and then go home.
yeah.
You're not trying to, find a moment, a painterly cloud. You're just, you
Okay.
know.
So if I can just offer, is it best to just reword it and say you should wake up each day to be the best you can be creatively?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, sometimes you don't have that much energy, but you try not to just do the minimum. Don't like I had this one
but
teacher. He said, from the menu of life, don't always choose the cheeseburger. There's a lot out there. There's fish. There's quail eggs. Just try something different. Don't settle for mediocrity. Good enough. Don't settle for good enough. That term drives me up a wall. People are like, oh, good enough for government work. Really? No. Do the best you can. I understand what you're saying, Ken. I completely understand.
Okay. Okay.
But
Yeah.
sometimes you're not really up to being creative. Sometimes trying to be creative creates some really piss poor results. It's like, what were you doing with that? I was being creative. Really?
Okay.
Try
Okay.
again.
Okay. Mark, anything else?
no.
Another question? Okay. All right.
Intent, nothing about intent. All right, you going next, Ken?
Yeah, I'm going next.
All right, what you got?
Okay. I got this. All right. And
Ooh,
what I'm speaking about is intent.
new
And
Freelander.
when intent happens.
Okay.
In this particular instance, intent of this photograph did not happen until I walked there and saw it. So the intent did not happen on the way there. It did not happen when I woke up. It did not happen. It only happened at the second that I walked past this particular space at that particular time, saw that particular light, saw that particular reflection, and said, "Okay, I need to capture this because first of all, it's multi-layering, it's reflective, and you're looking through a glass window, but it's actually reflecting back behind you. All this stuff is working out, and it's just layers upon layers of confusion, but it makes sense. And it also works because in the intent that I originally had when I went out was just to go out and photograph a specific neighborhood. with nothing in mind in terms of what I was going to photograph. It only became intentional for me to photograph this when I saw it, not any time before that. And the idea was, wow, this is a very intriguing image. It's a very intriguing perspective. And the intent was to record that perspective to the best of my ability in what I saw. And from when I look at the image and I'm like, wow, that actually came out
Well, I
pretty
mean,
much like what I saw.
someone who lives in a city and works. Go ahead.
No, you lost your mind. Go ahead.
I was, you got me. All right, I was going to say it's a scene that if you live in a city and you work in in the downtown area or the business district of any city, you see it, but you take it for granted because there are a lot of glass doors. So it's taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary is what you've done with this. You've sort of pointed out that there are all these dimensions to this view that so many of us sort of pass right through, and we don't really pay that much attention. I mean, when you grab the handles to open those doors, you're inevitably interested in what's going on inside. How do you get to the elevator court? How do you get to where you need to go? And the only reason why I know it's an elevator court is because I'm so familiar with this type of scene that it's probably a skyscraper similar to the ones reflected in the door.
Yeah. Yep.
It looks like an abandoned bank, but that's neither here nor there. I
Right.
like the reflector. The exposure is immaculate. I really like that.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of Robert Frank. I'm sorry, Lee
That's okay.
Friedlander
No,
and his.
and I just wanted to just speak to the notion of when intention happens.
Okay.
You may go out with a bigger picture, but you have, in terms of, for me, even street photography, you're just going out with a sort of a general idea, and you're walking around, you're seeing what visually excites you and interests you. And then your historical context comes in mind. You're looking at things and you're taking in your history unconsciously. You're doing that, and you're saying, okay, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? Okay, and then all of a sudden, you look at something. Wow. Okay, what am I seeing? How can I visually convey what I'm seeing to another person? And this is what you come up with. And the deciding factor was, how do I not get myself in the reflection? And you just couldn't. So you just had to incorporate yourself into it in order for it to do that. There's no way I could have not been in this reflection.
You can pull the door open.
Oh, or you could have selected less. I mean, I'm very drawn to the left side of the photo because for me, I can see all the layers in the reflection, the layers of building that go on across the street, and that juxtaposed in the against the leading line in the lower left-hand corner.
Yep.
It shows me a lot of the dimension. The right side, I don't see as much of that.
Yep.
But on the left side, I like that a lot.
Yep. Absolutely.
But it's also, and when you say intention, like you say, that leading line in the corner, there's a design term I remember that from ad design where they say, you lock your corners instead of it being, arbitrary. If you put something in the corner that leads the eye into the frame, that's a conscious or intentional design decision.
I would think so, but I think it's referenced as an how do I say it? Muscle memory.
Good design.
Visually, it's muscle memory. When you're used to. Let me reflect another way. When you look through the frame, you are unconsciously framing it up the way you've historically done it using the techniques that you've learned. So we're talking about the leading line. For me, in this particular instance, I don't remember paying attention to the leading line, but I can figure that I was unconsciously seeing the leading line and using it.
Okay.
So it wasn't a conscious intent, but I can say with some confidence that it was unconsciously done.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing.
And that
It is. Oh, without a doubt.
basically what you're saying is that looking for things like that have become second nature. And
It's
therefore,
become exactly. That's
it's
what.
not something you go, oh, there's a leading line. I'm going to see if
Right.
I can follow that.
Right.
And then,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah. You just do it.
Okay, so conversely, have you ever tried to frame up a shot and then saw a leading line and said, "Ooh, let me add that"?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And because to some degree, when I'm doing that in this particular instance, and I think it happens a lot, is I try a couple of different angles,
Right. Right.
and then I edit from those 3 or 4 angles that I choose from.
Okay. So you're making intentional design or frame design decisions.
In some aspects,
In
yes.
some, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Oh, that's fine. All
Yep.
right. I'm
Okay,
good with
Mark.
that.
We got me.
Okay.
Now you.
Okay.
All right. We got your first one up
Right.
here.
Right. The first photo, there was a family that we know that had asked us to create photographs for them of the father and the newborn. And while we were taking the photographs, he stopped to
We
kiss
who? This is
the
your shot?
subject. Everything I show is my shot. I don't show other people's
Okay, so
photographs.
who were we? You said we took the picture.
That would be myself and the subjects.
Oh,
So I feel
okay.
I see every time I photograph portraiture, it's a collaborative effort. And while we were working together to get these photographs, it's not just me setting them up and doing everything. I mean, of course, we did set a set. We put the black backdrop up, and we put a light to sort of replicate what you know a shard of light would look like going through, not without the beam part, of course, but just like a brightly lit one light setup. And the father was so enamored with his newborn that he sort of brought the child up to his face and kissed the child on its abdomen. And I clicked the shutter, and you and I were talking offline about serendipity. I mean, we set up everything, and it was prepared, but at the end of the day, with this particular one, I had an intention to get a touching photograph of father and child, but I don't think I would have necessarily guessed that his love for his child would have just really caused him to to kiss the child just so tenderly. I asked him to, kiss the child, and he just reached over, and I would have thought he would have kissed the child on the cheek, but he went right for the belly button. And so I got a really great photograph. I should say we got a really great photograph, thanks to the intention of trying to get a great photograph, setting up an arena in which to work, and then within that arena, we were able to get a series of nice photos, and this is the best of that. So you can get to the next one.
No, I got a question for you before you go back. Go back to that.
Yes, sir.
Now, was it your intent? Okay, you say because you're usually the technical guy. You set the backdrop, you set the light.
Mm-hmm.
Was it your intention to capture an emotional image?
It was my
Were you
intention
looking for the emotion?
well, yes, because the child was new, but I didn't think I would get something as tender as this. I mean, usually when you do a portrait and you ask people to, hug the child or hold them close, you don't get anything that's quite as touching as this particular pose. I mean, he, he had the child in his arm a certain way, and he just lifted the child up to his face. And so, and we have other photos, but this one was so natural, and it was as if it was a street photo that was done right in their living room. So it's just a
So
wonderful,
all the elements came together.
right. It's a right,
The peak
exactly.
action.
The intention, the peak action, all the storytelling. I mean, it's obviously this is his child,
A
and he
very
was very
human moment. Very human.
exactly. Right.
Okay.
And I mean, you mentioned technical a lot. I mean, I think the technical is used but I use technical only as much as I need to make sure that I have an element of consistency or an element of a light where I don't have to wait for 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the light to go through a specific window. If I have to photograph at 6 o'clock at night, then the light might not be in the right spot, so I've got to put it there. So.
No, but it's
Mm.
like technically well lit. I mean, it's almost
Yeah.
perfectly lit. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think for me the piece de resistance is the baby's finger curled up. The
Right.
way
I could
that
have never.
yeah
I
that
couldn't have. There's no way I could have
yeah
gotten that exactly.
yeah,
So,
but it's a cool
as
shot.
he's dreaming about shooting pool, we could have been like, "Oh, come on, baby."
Okay. Oh my god.
See, you see that? That's a perfect curl for the interview.
mhm.
All right.
So the second photo, we photographed this little girl. This was they came to our home. I set up a what do you call it, a set there. I got some dollar store, uh, what do they call these things? Snowflakes,
Mm-hmm.
and taped them to a gray backdrop. And once again, I set up a couple of lights, and we lit this to look like daylight. And we
Why
did a
not?
lot of photographs with this little girl, and she turned just a certain way and looked at me. We did hand her that particular ornament to hold in her hand. Her mom did pick a specific dress, and her mom would call her name, and she'd hide behind me. But there was just a second where she didn't look at mom; she looked directly at the lens, and we clicked the photo. So you set the environment, and there's enough happening within the environment where the photos look like they're candid, even though they are uh, put in a studio setting.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
the intention was to get a document of this little girl for Christmas cards. That was really it, and they used them for Christmas cards that year.
Great Christmas card.
Yeah.
Oh, woo.
And next,
Uh-huh. Oh.
all right. Now this little girl, she is from Maryland,
Oop.
but she uh, her family brought her to New York City on a trip. She wanted to go to New York City, and we met them over by the South Street Seaport, and we photographed them on the South Street at the South Street Seaport, and we made sure that they had a record of their trip to New York City where they could see the Manhattan Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. And we did a series of them. She's a pageant winner, as you can see. She's Ms. Maryland. This is a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, you can read the title right there. It's for the National American Miss Pageant. Her name's Kayla Lawrence. And, she was a junior preteen in 2016. And for a while, we did photographs as the pageant pros. We no longer use that because we haven't done any pageant work in a little while,
Mm-hmm.
particularly with the pandemic. We just weren't able to do that, anything. And so really that's it. But it's a one photograph. It's not layered in Photoshop or anything like that. We had a big strobe, and we just bounced the light within the foreground with the individual with the light that's in the back, and it looks very great, very good, and she looks very heroic. One of the things that I try to do is when we're in school, whether it was the photo classes or the visual communications class, they try to tell you to work with intention and try to communicate as a visual communicator. And with the pageant kids, what I try to do, or the pageant contestants or winners, I should say, I try to make sure that they look really heroic. You can see in the little girl photograph of the little girl that we use as a Christmas card. Everyone has, they're practically superheroes, and that's the way I like to see my subjects when I photograph them. So we tell the story, we make sure we can see them clearly, and they have great photos that they can use and for years. Yeah. And that's really it.
So an intent can be to tell a story. An
Right,
intent can be to get a point of information across. An
right, and this,
intent can be a
right,
visual construct.
right,
An intent can be abstract.
right,
Uh, a whole
right.
myriad of
And,
things.
well, right. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is that when we started this conversation in the previous segment, we talked about photographing with intention, and my idea was that whenever you pick up the camera and you take a picture, there's always some intent, whether you're conscious of it or not. You want to document something, or you want to check out a setting on camera, or you something visual that you want to collect for data, for sketch, for something later, or scouting, or an act job, or creating art. There's some intention that you have when you take your camera out and take a picture. And so that's just one of the topics I thought was really good. And this is part 2, and that's all I had to say about it.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I was, as Greg was making his presentation, one of the things that came across was, can intention be unconscious? Right? Because it sort of felt that Greg, to some degree, had a feeling, but couldn't put his finger on it. But he knew how he wanted to convey it, but not know fully consciously what was happening, because it happens to me a lot as well.
Mm.
Which is, you know that something there, you're feeling it, but you don't know exactly what it is.
Right.
And this is the moment in which you have to do it, because it won't exist once this is over.
I think a lot. Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I think a lot is said about the idea of photographing and just sort of finding images, and that you were saying that the intention could be something that you're not aware of, and I think that's true. But I think it's very important to know what you're doing. I think that's part of professionalism, is to kind of know that when you're photographing something, you know that you're trying to place a subject in the frame in a particular area. You're trying to capture a particular lighting scenario, whether it's yours or one that you found. You're looking at a particular palette. I try to photograph with intention and mindfulness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it really truthfully, when I look through the viewfinder, if I'm photographing an event, I know exactly where I want everything to land on the frame. And I may sketch within the confines and do 2 or 3 of sort of one occurrence. Like, let's say someone's crossing a finishing line at a track meet. I may, do a burst to make sure I get the optimum place of where that figure is. But at the end of the day, I want to get a photograph of them crossing the line. When I used to do sports, I would photograph for a specific school, and not necessarily the winners. Some of the schools, the athletes weren't great, but they were participants. But I tried to make sure they always looked like winners. So that was my intention, was to make sure that these kids looked like winners no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was doing it for the school, not for the meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Like making them look like superheroes.
Right,
That's an
superheroes. Right, you're right, because they're kids, and you may only have played softball, one term your junior year of high school, 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it is, and you didn't cross the plate, but you hit the ball. So if I got a picture of you hitting the ball, or vice versa, you may have hit the ball, right, and gotten to first or second base, but at the end of the day, it was someone else's hit that allowed you to cross home plate. I try to get home plate. I try to get as much for that team or for that school as possible. But I mean, I've digressed. But the idea is the moments. The intention is to capture the moment, so the kid has a great memory. And it's
Right.
Some of these things are at this point 10 years ago. So maybe this kid has a great fun. This was me when I played basketball. This was me when I played, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They have great memories, and they may not know who I am or not, and I'm okay with that. But they have great pictures of themselves looking like heroes in their school, and that's great.
So, and
Or
okay,
like,
Greg, you had something?
it's just like you were saying before. You can once you like you guys, once you know what works in your studio setup, so that after you do something for long enough, you say, like you said, muscle memory, you can also get a design memory. You know what works, in your frame, and your design is almost automatic, so that there
Right.
would be design or artistic muscle memory. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually forgot. It's okay.
Oh, dang it! Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
Oh,
superheroes
right. It
framing?
had to do with intent. So, as Mark was saying, when you have let's say different items coalescing into one image, or different people coalescing into one image, such as you're shooting a portrait of someone. And so there's an intent upon the person who's being photographed, an intent of the photographer who's photographing that person. How do they merge together to become one?
Are you saying like you have the one photograph, sort of a
And the
record of the
subject and the
photograph,
shooter.
and the subject? Oh, well, go ahead. Could you
Well,
reiterate that? Because I'm not
yeah,
quite sure I understand what you mean.
right. Well, a person who's coming to have their portrait taken, the intent is to have their portrait taken.
Correct.
And they have a certain, maybe a visual way they see themselves.
Right.
And you have a certain way to photograph a person.
Right.
How did those two coalesce into one final line?
Oh, how do I mesh my style with what they want to
Yeah,
see?
right.
Well,
Because you
I
have an
can
intent, they have an intent. What's that final balance?
I can speak to the difference between how I photograph pageant people and how I photograph the fashion people. I used to photograph fashion people in the 80s, and they just wanted to show pictures of themselves showing off clothes. They would bring outfits, and for them, it was all about, get me in this cool jean outfit, or get me in this suit, or get me in this great dress, or whatever it was they wanted to wear. They would wear a certain outfit in a certain location, and they would pose as if they were in magazines. The pageant people are a little different because the pageant people need to see them. It's the imagery is more about them because they have to submit photos because ultimately they are spokesmodels. I mean, at
Uh-huh.
the end of the day, if you're a pageant winner, you move on to sort of an entertainment career almost all the time.
Uh-huh.
You wind up either promoting, blah 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 window and flooring locally, or you do something nationally, depending on the status of the win and the status of the pageant.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I try to create a portrait from my taste, uh, for them, for me, it's really more about them. But if I have enough time, or if I have an opportunity to speak to them ahead of time, sometimes we'll talk about, well, I'd like to do something in this area. I try to make sure I get what they need first and foremost,
Okay.
right? Because they're the client. And then within whatever setting we're at the beach or whatever, then I try to, once I got the photographs I know that they need and want, I try to do some things within that frame that are a little closer to what I would do if I were doing fashion work. Only because I need the variety. And so that's why sometimes you'll see, if you look at my webpage, you might see the same individual. Sometimes they're wearing a crown and sash. Sometimes they're just wearing a crown, or sometimes they're just wearing an evening gown. And so, or fun fashion. Plus, in the pageant world, they have different types of photos they need. Sometimes they need
Okay.
fun fashion. Sometimes they need a headshot. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of latitude within what they need for me to get photographs that are good for me. But I've not really had an opportunity to really just say, okay, I'm going to set up a space. This is all for me.
Uh-huh.
Let's do this kind of photo. I haven't
Uh-huh.
had that kind of experience in many years.
Okay.
But you work with what the client wants and with what you need
Got it.
together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Reach
If we
that
got
synergy.
nothing else, anybody have anything else to add?
I'm good.
Yeah. Part two. Okay, Greg, you want to take us out then?
Well, if we go back to that last slide, just get out there and shoot. Exercise that visual acuity. Exercise it like it's a muscle. The more you shoot, the better you get at it. Pick a topic. And just if you want to find an intent, and start from the ABCs, just pick a topic. Get to know your medium. Figure out, learn how that camera works. Put it in manual. Learn how to, learn what that shutter speed does. Learn what the aperture does, and that way, when you have to shoot, throw it into automatic. You know what it's doing. It's just not numbers, and you get what you get. You should know your medium. Just like a painter knows the difference between horsehair and nylon brushes, or fan brushes, or acrylic and oil, or watercolor. They know their medium. So get to know your camera, and And then once you get out there, just get out there, get together with folks, because more forums and the more groups like us, we're years in. I won't say how many. We're years in, and we're still talking about photography. How we do this? How did you do that? Wait, that drag shutter really worked in this instance. Didn't really work with that one. Keep talking about it and keep shooting. That's all I got. Get an intent or not. Shoot without intent and see what you get. Compare the two. And like these two guys, and I'm aspiring to get like them. Catalog your work so you know how to get back to it. So you can say, okay, I want to see how I did this the last time, and compare it to what you're doing now. Because you're always growing. Always seek to be growing. Always seek to be better, and never settle for mediocrity. That's all I got.
Okay. With that, thanks for joining us, guys. If you have any comments or questions, no matter how inconsequential you may think they are, leave a comment down below. Leave a question down below. We'd love to answer your question. We want to know that you're out there and you're actually listening. So please drop us a line, say hi, leave a comment, anything. All right? Okay. With
All
that,
right.
we'll see you on the next episode.